Welcome to CoB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharvan Raghavan.
So, Sudeep, where have you been? I'm looking at posts of you speaking here, speaking there. After TEDx, you've like gone hit another level in speaking assignments. What's happened?
No, nothing like that. I had got a couple of invitations from some forums
Hmm.
because of some friends that I had. So, still relying on friends and well wishers like yourself. So, in fact, the last one that I did, I was in Kolkata
Hmm.
and I was speaking at a BNI event.
Okay.
They were hosting Kolkata chapter members of BNI. It was a big trade show where
Hmm.
a lot of the BNI member had put up their stalls.
Okay.
And apart from giving them visibility and networking opportunity, the BNI organizing team had also called in some speakers so that they could help business owners and entrepreneurs to learn. I was called as part of this series where I had to speak to them about marketing.
Hmm. Of course.
Yeah, I spoke to them about principles of branding, marketing, and how could a business simple business think about various elements of branding and marketing.
Wouldn't BNI be more of smaller businesses?
Yeah, very small.
Okay.
So most of them were homepreneurs as they call themselves.
Wow.
And there were people who had jewelry stores, people who had clothing stores, software businesses, paints businesses, all sorts.
Right. So
So
now that you've told us
huh,
that even your TEDx talk was like a podcast,
yeah.
now I want to convert the BNI speech into a podcast today.
No, actually, I wanted to pick up one specific aspect from my BNI talk.
Mm-hmm.
Towards the end of that talk, Sharon, I asked the audience to give me a business
Hmm.
so that I could then demonstrate to them what are the various things that they could do from a branding and marketing point of view.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah, and the
I
idea
assume
was
this
to
was an address to saying how not to, without spending too much money, is what you would have focused on.
yeah, and more
Hmm.
importantly, the idea was that there are so many other aspects that you could think about
Hmm.
which would make your product, your brand more endearing to the consumers.
Right.
So that was the idea. So one of my realizations, Sharon, during that point in time was that most of the homepreneurs, entrepreneurs, small business owners get their product right. They know their customers, so they have some idea about the product.
Right.
And once they have the product, two observations. Number one, they find it difficult to zero in on one target segment.
Right.
They want to
I
target
want to sell to
everybody.
everybody.
Correct. So that's one bit. And repeatedly I assured them that targeting one segment does not mean that you're not selling it to others.
Exactly.
It just
Hmm.
means that you're designing for one and you're making sure that they are the ones who will absolutely love it.
Hmm.
Yeah. uh,
Right.
so that was one, and second was that after getting the product, immediately once they got their core offering right, then immediately they wanted to get to selling by kind of maybe some making a video about it, or putting it giving it to an influencer and then getting some
Hmm.
reviews about it, etc., etc.
Social media activation at best.
Social media, etc., because that is something which is gaining traction now.
The most accessible format of communication.
Accessible, localized,
Hmm.
uh, and amenable also. It gives you access to all kind of TGs, all kind of influencers,
Right.
micro influencers also. So nothing wrong with that. So that's one topic I wanted to pick up, so which is specifically around product.
Okay.
Yeah, which is to say that an invitation to all small businesses out there, that when you have a product,
Hmm.
see how you can sweat your product and your product offering very very well,
Hmm.
so that you could lift your product from just being a product to a product experience for consumers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you might remember, Sharon, that when we were in our college quite some time back, there was this gentleman called Philip Kotler.
Oh yeah, Mr. Philip.
Yeah. So he, the first chapter or the second spoke about 4 P's of marketing.
Right.
Yeah, which was product, price, promotion, and place.
Yeah.
And in this, while product is one of the first P's that he spoke about, I just wanted to bring this to everybody's attention that this first P actually is quite magical.
The
Yeah,
product.
the product.
Okay.
And while you can get your core offering right, there's
Hmm.
just so much more that you can do around it to really enhance your value proposition to your consumers.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to intervene here
Yeah.
because, like you spoke to BNI,
Hmm.
I had a one-person audience
Hmm.
today.
Hmm.
Talking to a client,
Mm-hmm.
I spent about 45 minutes asking the client to let the product be,
Hmm.
because what I have seen is that people are so focused on the product. So they manufacturing or making something is so easy.
Hmm.
So people tend to satisfy themselves by expanding their portfolio all the time.
Hmm. Hmm.
And at the face of it, the advice you given and the advice I gave today seem to be contrary to each other.
I think uh, you are possibly referring to some people who want to, from the very start,
Hmm.
want to have every possible variant or the
Right.
entire range in their portfolio before they get to the consumer.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that also stems from their fear that I don't want to lose any customer.
Hmm.
Yeah. Again, the same problem about targeting everybody.
Right.
Yeah. So if they have a, for example, a juice, they would want to have an orange, apple, lychee, guava, everything at the same time
Yeah. 16
because
variants to launch.
16 variants to launch. So now, obviously, it looks very sexy on the shelf that you will have all 16 variants. But as you and I know now, that placing even one or two variants itself is such a big and humongous task.
Right.
Placing 16 is going to be next to impossible.
Exactly.
Yeah, even the biggest FMCG like a Dabur Foods could never place all their variants on shelf. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so you have regional preferences, and the shopkeeper will sell whatever sells out of their store.
Right.
But rewinding back, so yeah,
Hmm.
so therefore, I think the fear of not letting any consumer go might lead entrepreneurs to think about expanding their range or trying to target everybody. But the point that I was making to them, that even if, for example, you are in juice category and you only have one flavor and you want to go to the market rather than immediately starting to go to the market, if you sweat your proposition a bit more, there is so much more that you can do around that juice, that bottle of juice or that carton of
Hmm.
juice, which will make your proposition come alive to the consumer and thereby increase your chances of getting picked up significantly.
Right. So you're saying not to over engineer the product, but you're saying develop a product experience
Yes.
that makes your brand stand out. And I think this is all the more applicable in a category like FMCG or health and wellness, where your proprietary products are so limited.
Yeah.
There's hardly any proprietary technology that exists there most of the time.
Yeah. In fact, this articulation did not occur to me in the BNI forum,
Hmm.
product versus product experience. But now that I think about it, Sharon, it is applicable to all product as well as service companies.
True.
Now, finally, at the end of the day, you go to a hotel. Hotel is a hotel.
Yeah.
All of them have a big lobby, a reception, and then we go to the room. It is all standard offering.
Hmm.
It is the experience that they sell,
Right.
and each one of them have their own distinct way of delivering that experience.
Hmm.
Yeah. So therefore, uh, even if you're delivering a service, so that service, now in this case I was saying product experience, in the other case I will say service experience.
Right.
Yeah. So therefore, if you avail of Ola, Uber, or in the past, like we have spoken about Indigo, Sharon.
Right.
Yeah, the fact that Indigo gets branded as on time airline is because they are able to deliver that experience repeatedly over and over again.
Right.
So therefore, I think this product experience or service experience as a concept is applicable to all kind of product and service categories.
Hmm.
It depends on how much you want to sweat it.
Right.
Yeah. And I thought that it will be a good idea to possibly share some examples of the sort of thoughtfulness that goes and should go into designing all kind of accoutrements around the product, which kind of put together create a product experience which is significantly better as
Hmm.
compared to just having one single piece of product and then putting it out to the consumer in whatever may seem like a bare minimum essentiality to you.
Right. I think we've touched upon this in one of our earlier episodes also,
Hmm.
where we said whether you're in a service business or in a product business,
Hmm.
you are in the experience business.
Correct.
And
Correct.
I'm completely aligned with that. I can't wait for the examples.
Yeah. So, for example, in the BNI forum also, I gave this example of a gaming arcade.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you're wanting to open a gaming arcade. Now, gaming arcade is a gaming arcade.
Hmm.
People open it up. You have games across there. People play it. They accumulate coupons or points or whatever, and then they redeem those points against some gifts. That's what
Right.
gaming arcades are all about.
Right.
So one of the thought processes I was trying to seed with people was that if you, for a moment, take a pause, think about who your gaming arcade is meant for.
Hmm.
So your possible teachers are kids, teenagers, and parents of kids.
Right.
Of course, given a choice, you will say all three. So that choice I'm not giving to you. So you have to choose one. And the reason I wanted to do that was that I
Hmm.
I elucidated to them, I demonstrated to them that if you choose kids, for example, now kids engage fully with the games.
Right.
It is them and the game. So therefore you want very engaging games. You games which are not very difficult, but possibly you have some games which appeal to very young kids, then some to the medium ones and some to the slightly older ones.
Right.
And then possibly you want to keep collecting data of which game seems to be more engaging than others,
Hmm.
and then change the ones that are not engaging people. Yeah.
Okay.
Slowly keep lifting the profile of the games, keep making them more engaging, so therefore every time the kid comes they discover, oh okay, this is new, so let me try this, because kids are
Hmm.
fans of novelty.
Right.
Yeah. So you design your games in that manner, and therefore if there are food or other options there, you will design your food options also in that manner. They have
Focused
to
on
be
kids.
focused on kids, correct? You will
Hmm.
have mini meals or kid meals and stuff like that.
Right.
Suppose you are focusing on teenagers. Now the core need for teenagers is to hang out.
Right.
So it is not essentially the game, but the fact that they are able to play the game along with their
Friends and chill
friends.
out.
Yeah. So either they can compete, etc. So you need more games where two or three people can play together.
Right.
Yeah. Now, since these are teenagers, you also need hangout zones where they will sit, chat, etc. etc. You also need Insta worthy zones.
Right.
Yeah. Now, and therefore you need them to be able to, so therefore you need to have some kind of hashtag. Yeah. That they are able to flaunt.
Right.
Right. And you need to update your Insta zone every
Constantly.
possibly
Hmm.
month or something, so that every time they put it up there, they are not repeating it. Yeah, they are getting something fresh. Yeah. So that's how you design, and obviously the menu and everything also.
Absolutely.
Now suppose you say that okay, these are okay, but I want to design for the parents of the kids.
Okay. That's the interesting part I was waiting for.
Yeah. Now for a parent, the gaming zone is possibly the most useless place. Yeah. The kids
Right.
are wasting time, the kids are wasting money,
Hmm.
and they are not learning anything.
Hmm.
Yeah. So therefore parents think of it as wastage. It's a necessary evil in their lives. Now think of it different way. What do the parents want to do? The parents want to spend quality time with their kids,
Hmm.
and the parents want the kids to learn something.
Hmm.
Now if you are therefore appealing to the parents, you number one keep games which are entertaining but they teach something to the kids.
Hmm.
Yeah, or even to the same game you possibly put a tag, what does this teach your kid? You
You're addressing the
enables
pain points of the parents,
of the parent.
even though they've succumbed to the necessary evil.
Correct.
Make them feel good about it.
Correct. And if you want to draw them further, you have games that a parent and a kid can play together and bond.
Mm.
Yeah, the same Oreo inside. Yeah.
Right.
So insights are same regardless of the category that you're playing in. Yeah.
True.
So you have a father and daughter game, or a father and son game, mother and son game, etc., etc., and then you give them extra bonus points if the parent and kid duo are playing together. Right? You
Mm.
enable them to become friends. You enable them to spend quality time together, etc., etc. Yeah.
Right.
So, and then you have combos of such kind and stuff like that. Yeah. So you can also sell merch, as they call it, merchandise, with saying world's best father, world's best son, stuff like that. Yeah.
For taking me to the gaming parlor.
Correct. So, then you're, what you're doing, therefore it is still a gaming parlor. It is going to have games, it is going to have redemption coupons, etc., etc., but you put a little more thought in designing, decorating, renovating it, so that it lifts the experience for your core TG.
Thank you for listening to CoB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharvana Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net. That's CoBBCAST.net.
It's amazing that you've kind of put together a proper business plan for multiple gaming arcades,
Yeah.
which itself can be. I'm selling this episode. All right. Now, but to get to the core of what you're saying, Sudeep, is that no matter what business you're in,
Huh.
as with life, you need to be thoughtful. And
Correct.
in business, the most important person in your business life is the customer. Depending on who you choose to
Yeah.
target,
Yeah.
you need to understand them, be thoughtful for them, and design experiences specifically for the target audience you're going after.
Correct.
And this also functions as a differentiator versus other businesses.
It will, because regardless of whether you are targeting the same audience, you have to choose a specific aspect of that consumer's life that you're going to impact,
Hmm.
and you will impact that in your own unique way. Not only are you able to create a differentiation basis the space that you're going to impact, sometimes that also might be same, but also the depth with which you impact it.
Right.
Yeah.
The thoughtfulness of it.
Correct.
Hmm.
Correct. So people might be using exactly or very similar products, but your thoughtfulness would possibly make you even more endearing to the customer.
Absolutely. Because I think the example of what you just gave, right? This is why in service businesses, even the best SOPs do
Yeah.
not deliver the same experience when one organization does it versus the other.
Correct.
There's this great example of Southwest Airlines,
Yeah.
how everybody knows what they do,
Yeah.
but nobody's been able to replicate what they do.
Correct.
That's pretty much what you're capturing, right? Saying even
Correct.
if the amount, the depth of your thought that goes into designing the experience makes all the difference.
Correct. Correct. So I saw it, and the reason I got convinced about it, because I saw it in action.
Hmm.
I have been part of one particular launch
Hmm.
where I saw this happening, and I was kind of amazed. I was taken aback.
Okay, which one
Yeah.
was it?
So this was the launch of Cadbury Dairy Milk Silk.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, back in 2009, 2010, when it was getting launched. One of the key things was to make the smoothest possible chocolate that anybody in India had ever had. Once that had been achieved, we were, in a regular parlance, you already had dairy milk. We could have
Right,
just changed the graphics, put this into the dairy milk mode, and we would have gone to the market.
right.
But the team that was working on it said that let us try and elevate the experience to a very different level.
Hmm.
Yeah. So the first thing that possibly people might, or I don't know whether they have appreciated or not, and this we have spoken about once in the podcast earlier,
Right.
that the shape of the cube of Cadbury Dairy Milk Silk is dome shaped.
To hit the roof of the mouth. I think you
Correct.
mentioned this. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it mimics the shape of your mouth.
Hmm.
Yeah. And gives you better sensorials, better taste experience, better mouth experience, or eat experience as we call it,
Right.
vis-a-vis any other chocolate. The rest are flat bars.
Hmm.
Yeah. So therefore, it was unlike any other chocolate cube that one would have seen in Indian market in those days.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that was the first, that was the start of it. So number
Hmm.
one, just to have this thought, to be able to have a chocolate that gives that kind of an experience, and then obviously we had to undertake fresh molds and everything to make that chocolate.
But you also extended this experience into different facets of the product, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So then we went beyond this. Now what did we do for, and therefore the thought process was, how do we make each element of the product thoughtful?
Hmm.
Yeah. So then next, the product is usually wrapped in a foil.
Right.
Yeah. Now the foil in this case also, now in a regular Cadbury Dairy Milk, it's a golden foil.
Right.
In this one also, it was a golden foil, but it had silk written on it. It has silk
Ah,
printed on it. Yeah.
for the
Never
premium
before,
experience.
yeah, never before had we printed anything on the foil.
Hmm. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Then there is a paper band on top of it. The paper band
Hmm.
kind of supports the bar.
Hmm.
Uh, if and it is usually, normally in dairy milk, it is used only during summer months, so
Right.
that the it supports the bar and which does not go limp during the
Hmm.
summer days.
Right.
So in silk we keep it throughout the year. We used to keep it throughout the year.
Hmm.
That paper laminate in the case of regular dairy milk says Cadbury, 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 Cadbury. Just that's it. Yeah.
Hmm.
In this case, it had a tome written as a to the consumer about the
Hmm.
sort of experience that we are bringing to them
Oh,
from
okay.
silk. Yeah.
On the sleeve.
On the on the paper laminate. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. On the paper wrap, and then on top of paper wrap uh, is your final uh, cover that
Right.
everybody is able to see. We call it laminate.
Hmm.
Yeah, the
The
final
seal.
laminate, sealing laminate. Yeah.
Hmm.
uh, Cold seal laminate. And the cold seal laminate, again in this case, we made it matte.
Hmm.
Yeah. To
I
give a
remember
premium
that. Yeah.
experience if you touch it. Obviously we worked on the graphics very well. If you turn it around, there are again some nice stuff written so that it could just heighten the experience.
Hmm.
Yeah. So the whole thought process was that uh, you hold the bar, you feel the premiumness. Then when you turn it around to open it, you read again, it heightens your anticipation. When you open it, then you encounter this paper band. Again, when you read it, it again heightens your anticipation. And then you get to the foil, and then when you bite into the chocolate, the anticipation is already heightened. And with the sort of product that we have put inside, we were confident that the consumer will be significantly satiated. Yeah.
That's a brilliant example, Sudeep.
And it didn't stop there, Sharon.
Okay. Okay. Go on.
Uh, Now, possibly, it wasn't very common earlier,
Hmm.
but we also made display outers with shelf utility for silk.
Hmm.
Yeah. So these were outers where the bars were standing.
Right.
Yeah. So you could just tear away the top of the outer, and you would see the bars standing one after the other, so that the shopkeeper could pick up one bar and give it to the consumer,
Shopper.
and the
Hmm.
rest of the bars were still standing and creating
Still
a
remain
display for the.
standing.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
therefore that is something that you also created. Otherwise, normally all of our packaging, if you remember, had bars lying down.
Right.
So the bars don't contribute to the branding on the shelf.
Hmm.
Only the packaging does. In this case, the bar was also contributing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. It shows how so much thought goes into every step of the consumer experience,
Correct.
and there is a very high chance most consumers will not notice all of it in one go,
Correct.
but you have to still keep doing it so that when they notice it, they acknowledge the value of that experience.
Correct.
So this is like a movie director putting in all the soft cues in the movie,
Correct.
expecting not expecting the audience to see it at the first go,
In the
but
first
when they
pass.
watch it again and again, they realize how much detailing has happened to give them that viewing experience. It's exactly
Correct.
that.
Correct. So if you've ever traveled in Indigo, for example, I
Hmm.
love the whatever they write on everything that they do,
The stories, the sandwich stories.
the sandwich
I love.
story and the nut and everything. So they have this character. Yeah, their magazine is called 6E, Sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've made it very nice, very quirky. They have their own tone. So what they'll also do is under the pack, where usually nobody turns around and writes or reads, there also they would have written a message for you saying, now that you've turned around the pack, here's something for you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just the thoughtfulness of it. And then when the consumer takes that extra effort, even acknowledging that effort by writing something there in itself is a payback to the consumer.
Hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that is something that kind of at least to me it was very joyful when I looked at it from an Indigo point of view, or when I experienced silk on the shelf. I'm
Hmm.
sure even consumers would have felt like that. So that is the kind of thoughtfulness I wanted to talk about, Sharon.
Oh, absolutely. Just on that point of Indigo,
Hmm.
I was talking to a friend and I realized he'd never noticed this,
Ah,
that all Indigo flight numbers were 6E,
yeah,
and most flight numbers mean nothing. And Indigo has purposely taken 6E to be the sexiest airline possible.
correct.
And they've gone, nobody might even notice this. They've gone to that depth of thought to ensure that even their flight numbers are sexy.
Correct. Correct.
Amazing detail.
And after them doing that, it is then that SpiceJet
Hmm.
has tried to kind of take the spicy red kind of a
Hmm.
branding, although not so successfully, not with that kind of thought. But Indigo is miles ahead of anybody else in terms of creating this kind of branding language.
Oh, absolutely. I think SpiceJet has named their aeroplanes after different spices, but nowhere
Okay.
in the consumer journey do they people encounter that or notice it too much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is one. Then again, another one that we have spoken about quite a bit in the past is Kinder Joy.
Your enemy, the
Yeah,
villain brand.
but the one that taught me a lot.
Yeah.
So the kind of thought process that goes into design of their product, design of their packaging, and the whole sensorial they're able to deliver to the kids in terms of the whole getting to the toy, that whole unwrapping experience is something which is delightful.
Hmm.
And the way they make their eggs stand on the shelf by putting that little notch on one side, all masterpiece, I think.
And talking to the parents about it,
Yeah, and
telling
talking to
them
the
it's got
parents
milk
about
and
it. Yeah,
calcium.
yeah, yeah. So therefore, from a branding point of view, again, what I wanted to stress upon the fact is that the design of the product, the presentation of the product, the design of the packaging around the product,
Hmm.
and the design of the display on the shelf, all of those are covered in the first P.
Hmm.
So don't
Right.
just think of first P as just the product or what the consumer is going to consume. Yeah,
Right.
it is just so much more. Yeah, and hence it is important to think about all these levers when you are thinking about this particular P of
Hmm.
four Ps.
Right.
Yeah, you
So.
talk about a service brand, for example, Sharon. There is this book called Four Ds of Execution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
4 Ds.
so it
Okay.
talks about how to get to the best possible execution.
Hmm.
So it introduces this concept called WIG, wildly important goals.
Okay.
Yeah, so it says that if you want to be a great executing machinery, you need to be able to identify which are your wildly important goals.
Hmm.
Yeah, on the altar of which everything else can be sacrificed.
Right.
Yeah, and he gives this example of a hotel which was fairly well funded and all of that, and they were always receiving very mediocre ratings from their guests.
Okay.
So somebody, some new hotel manager, came by and they suggested that why don't we completely redo the interiors of the hotel, make it very posh, prime, etc., etc. They did that, but the ratings didn't change much.
Hmm.
Yeah. So then, one of the guys said that, okay, let us try something different. Yeah. Why don't we try and focus on, right now we've been focused on the hotel, trying
Right.
to make it big, better, etc., etc. Why don't we focus on who gives us the rating, which is the consumers?
Fair enough.
Yeah. So they said that, okay, now every guest that comes in, we need one person observing that guest all the time
Hmm.
and doing only two things. Number one, noting everything down, whatever they're doing. Number two, anticipate what would they need and providing
Hmm.
it to them.
Okay.
Let's just do that. So they started doing this. Yeah. So therefore, you have guests who will walk down to the swimming pool, and then they'll realize they haven't got the towel. Yeah.
Right.
So this guy would immediately run and give them the towel. Yeah. And they will also note down that this guy forgets the towel.
It's towel often.
Yeah. So that's how they started creating notes. Yeah.
Okay.
And over a period of time, they built a significant compendium of habits of their customers.
Hmm.
Yeah. So now they knew what is the favorite wine, what is the favorite cigar, or what is the favorite dinner of each one of their guests.
Wow.
So the next time the guests arrive, all they had to do was check that repository and tell them, sir, would you want your favorite dinner again? We've placed the your favorite cigar in your room. We hope that's fine. Yeah.
Right.
So just the act of changing their focus from the hotel to the consumer and then dedicating all their energy behind it led to the highest ever ratings.
Wow. It is about the experience at the end of the day.
Finally, it is about the experience, and experience also by keeping consumer in the middle of it,
Hmm.
by not focusing
Exactly.
on your offering but focusing on the consumer. What do you think the consumer would enjoy,
Hmm.
and how can you heighten the proposition that you're delivering to the consumer?
Right. 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 That's such a wonderful example.
Yeah.
It comes down to, it's almost personalized service,
Correct.
but it's about being thoughtful about the service you're providing to the guests who are coming into your hotel.
Correct.
Because a guest coming into a 2 star or 3 star hotel is not going to expect a 5 star level facility.
Correct.
It is the experience that they want to have unhindered and as comfortable as possible.
And from a whatever property you're walking in, since you booked that property, you broadly know what to expect.
Exactly.
A basic minimum expectation is already there. Unless you
Hmm.
are going to screw up on that, which will create a negative experience,
Hmm.
you will not be able to create delight just because you are meeting the expectations.
Hmm. Exactly.
And hence, your delivery has to be lifted, right? So, and I deliberately picked this example up, Sharon, because I wanted to give an example from a service industry also.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So, uh, and therefore, the fact that you are either delivering a service experience or you are delivering a product experience, you are in the business of delivering experience, as we have said in the past.
Right.
But the only dimension we are adding today is that delivery of experience lies in you realizing that your product has multiple layers, and
Hmm.
each one of those layers can be utilized, can be sweated to make the proposition come alive at a very, very different level.
Absolutely. I think this reminds me of a quote of one of the ex CMOs of Cadbury India,
Hmm.
Mr. Siddharth Mukherjee.
Huh.
He said, people never pay for the packaging,
Hmm.
because that's when celebrations were going through different packaging options. And there's some context about discussing packaging. He said,
Huh.
people never pay for the packaging that you put your product in,
Huh.
but they pay for the package, the
Hmm.
entire package of it, which is the experience that you
Correct.
deliver with it.
Correct.
I think this is, I think your episode today reminded me of the quote that he said that the other day.
No, no,
And
fair.
it's
I
never
think,
left my mind.
yeah, it's quite well put. So that was the hypothesis, or rather the conviction that I have built, Sharon, and I wanted
Right.
to transfer to everybody.
No, no, absolutely, Sudeep. I think it's we're at a stage where, especially in the product business, making anything is today figure outable. No matter what you think of, there's a way to make it today. We are no longer in the industrial era where it's difficult to make something. So when that has become the common denominator, everybody's able to make whatever you're making. What you add on top of it is what makes your brand, your business into a proper brand. Now, that has to be driven at the starting point itself from what you want to do for the consumer, the customer, and build an experience at every touch point and to keep enhancing it every time they engage with your brand. And I think, and to go back to the advice I was giving my client today, is not about building your portfolio of products, but having the limited products, but enhancing the experience you give with the products that you carry.
Yeah,
And that's what's important.
yeah, well said.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharon. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to CoB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharvana Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net. That's CoBBcast.net.